Tonight's the State of the Union, and Joe Biden, he's going to lie to you. But Senate Republicans, House Republicans, President Trump, they've got a whole slew of ads letting you know what the true state of Biden's nation is. And we're going to share all those ads with you, and you're going to love them. You're going to want to plow through a brick wall after you see them. Plus, things are so bad in New York that Governor Kathy Hochul is calling in the National Guard. Where have I heard that idea before, Senator Tom Cotton? Also, a fired up mom at a school board meeting. Is there anything better than that? We've got that video too, and a whole lot more. My name's Larry O'Connor. I'm brought to you by the Electronic Payments Coalition, and they call me Larry. Rolling. I'm about to start the Forget About Electronic Payments Coalition. We can't forget our friends over there. So call me Larry. Thanks. Hey, thanks for watching. We're live right now, noon Eastern time. It's Thursday. It's State of the Union Day. This is the latest we've ever had a State of the Union in the history of our nation. Well, at least since we've been doing these, made for television speeches. And so we're all fired up and ready to go with that. Also, if you're watching us after the fact, maybe you're watching this while Joe Biden's mumbling at you at the State of the Union. Whatever time you're watching this show, please, will you just take a quick moment to like this video and subscribe to it? Maybe even leave some comments on it as well. Wherever you're watching us, those comments, you know how this works. It goes a long way. And if you do subscribe and get alerts, then it forces the people you're watching this on, it forces them to send you little notifications. And I do like it when they do my work for me. It's great. It's like they work for me. They're like my staff. That's cool. Thank you for watching today. All right, let's get right to it. It is the State of the Union. Joe Biden is going to try to divide us tonight. He's also going to try to lie to us. He's also going to try to tell you that this entire election is about abortion. You know why he wants to do that? Because he doesn't want to face the reality of what he's done in office. President Trump's campaign has come out with a devastating ad today, and it focuses not on all of the horrible issues that our country is dealing with right now and not the mess that Joe Biden has created. It focuses on Joe Biden, the man himself, and the reality that when you vote for him this November, you're really voting for President Kamala Harris. This ad you're about to see is terrifying. Take a look.
Whatever the hell they want. I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit.
We can all see Joe Biden's weakness. If Biden wins, can he even survive till 2029? The real question is, can we? Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I should have given you a trigger warning. Yes, that's 30 seconds of gold there. And after that image right there is what this campaign's all about. And tonight, Joe Biden's going to try to make you think this is all about Donald Trump and MAGA fascists and January 6th and insurrection. Oh, and abortion. But this is a president running for re-election. And by definition, that means that this entire campaign should be a referendum on how he's done as president. Are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? House Speaker Mike Johnson's team has put together the answer to that question.
And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong. You should come. Surge to the border.
Migrants surge across from Mexico.
Pushing resources to the limit.
Some of those got part of the terror watch list.
Every state is a border state. Every city is a border city.
Sharp rise in the amount of drugs.
8,500 pounds of fentanyl.
Cartel controls everything that happens here.
America is at a breaking point.
Joe Biden is touting Bidenomics.
Bidenomics is working.
78% of voters view the economy negatively,
and that the president is to blame.
We're changing people's lives. Unrelenting price increases.
Sticker shock is hitting millions of Americans hard.
The highest economic growth in 40 years.
The highest inflation rate, Mr. President, in 40 years.
I got that.
Crime is dominating the headlines.
Surge of violent smash and grab robberies.
24% more murders.
The buck stops with me.
The Middle East in flames. Israel has formally declared war.
The Taliban has returned to power.
Embassy shuttered. The flag coming down.
Vladimir Putin doesn't fear this president.
Xi Jinping told President Biden China will reunify with Taiwan.
Weakness invites aggression.
Appeasement has failed.
This open season on America.
The country has soured on Joe Biden.
The most vacation days taken by a president.
The White House in damage control.
Where is the president? Why isn't he communicating?
I mean, bravo. The team over there at Mike Johnson's communication shop, that's brilliant. I mean, and that encapsulates in 90 seconds this time, encapsulates the last 3 years that we've been enduring under this president. And boy, oh boy, that image of him stumbling up the stairs of Air Force One. There's a reason why they've got him wearing the little Skechers now that look like dress shoes, but they're not. They're old guy shoes. And they have him going up the short stairs because of that image. That image is an image of a failing president and a failing presidency. And if we don't fix this, it's the image of a failing country. Good Lord. From inflation to the economic conditions, to the border, to crime, to the Middle East, to Afghanistan, that ad had it all. And over on the Senate side, the Senate Republican Committee, they actually have their version of the ad, this time 60 seconds, and frankly, also pure gold. Take a look.
Laken Riley should have been able to go on a run in broad daylight without being murdered by an illegal immigrant. But Joe Biden promised not to deport illegal immigrants.
Should that person be deported? That person should not be the focus of deportation.
Biden vowed not to detain illegal immigrants who cross the border.
No one would be put in jail while waiting for their hearing.
So when Jose Ibarra crossed into America illegally, he was not deported. He was not put in jail. Biden also supported sanctuary cities.
Should undocumented immigrants arrested by local police be turned over to immigration officials?
No.
So when Jose Ibarra was arrested in New York City for endangering a child, he was freed a second time. Ibarra went to Georgia, where he beat Laken Riley to death. How many more killers has Biden set free? Building America's Future is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Okay, Building America's Future, which is a political action committee, forgive me. It was promoted on X by Senate Republicans, and that's why I thought that it was from them. Either way, though, I feel like we're almost having a class right now in political communications and the use of digital and multimedia to convey a political message, because we have had 3 great examples here. This is one, unlike the one that Speaker Johnson's office put out, which was just a montage and conglomerate of problem after problem after problem after problem directly linked back to Joe Biden and using Joe Biden's own words and policies, linking them. This one hyper focuses on one issue, one critically important issue, and does it in an emotional way, starting with a woman who could very well have been the same age and size and type of Laken Riley, and then taking you through that journey of her murder. Phenomenal work, and critically important that Republicans are finally getting good at this. Because I'll be honest, we had a lot of years lost in the desert, right? And I want to share one more with you here before we continue on with our State of the Union presentation here in our first segment. This one comes directly from Senator Ted Cruz's office, one of the best communicators in the United States Senate, and he has a team of people who have been harnessing social media unlike any other person in the Senate or really in the Congress. He's really great at utilizing his appearances on television and other people's words that they use on television, and then making his political point to a much wider audience on social media. One thing that I've learned over the years of doing media is, everyone wants to go on Fox News. If you're a conservative commentator, go on Fox News. And sure, that's kind of important. But you know what's even more important? Taking the video of your appearance on Fox News and then spreading it out on social media. That's where a lot of people see it. People see it on Fox News, but not nearly as many people see it as they do on social media. And this is where Ted Cruz is so good. And in this ad, he actually does both. Watch.
There's a pattern we're seeing all across the country now. We're seeing violent crimes committed by illegal aliens that Joe Biden released.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum.
An illegal immigrant charged with the murder of a 22-year-old Georgia nursing student, Laken Riley.
Jose Ibarra, her accused killer, came to the U.S. illegally from Venezuela.
Whether it is Laken Riley or whether it is Jeremy Caceres, a 2-year-old boy who was murdered just outside Washington, D.C. by another illegal alien that Biden released. In recent days, a 14-year-old girl in Boston raped by an illegal alien Biden released. A child under 14 raped by an illegal alien in Louisiana that Biden released. When you release violent criminals into our community, Americans are going to be killed.
Ted Cruz also, by the way, running for re-election for the United States Senate. Again, a great ad. And none of these issues will be touched on by Joe Biden tonight. He can't. He can't. If he tries to talk about the border and immigration and tries to blame Republicans, he runs the risk of having it be the loudest and most boisterous negative demonstration in State of the Union history. In fact, I wouldn't blame House Republicans and Senate Republicans, for that matter, except maybe James Lankford and Mitch McConnell. I wouldn't blame them from staging a walkout if he tries that tactic. Frankly, I think that they're in such denial that they won't even mention the border or immigration at all. The number one issue facing the American voter today, and they can't even mention it. Now, he'll try to lie to you about the economy, and he's going to try to tell you that Bidenomics is working. He's going to try to tell you that wages are so much higher than prices right now, and that's just not true. They're in this untenable position now where they have to try to tell you to not believe your own bank account, not believe your own grocery bill or what you're paying for gas at the pump. Don't believe your own kids' tuition costs. Don't believe your credit card statement at the end of the month. Don't believe what's left in your paycheck after tax withholdings. Don't believe any of that. Believe Joe Biden. Believe Joe Biden that the economy is fantastic and Bidenomics is working. I wonder what Adam Schiff, congressman from California, who's running from the U.S. Senate, thinks about this.
Well, I think if our campaign and success in a state like California is any indication, he needs to emphasize what he has done, and what he has done has been remarkable. The most aggressive effort to combat climate change in history, the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS and Science Act that brought back so many jobs and continues to, but also how he'll continue to address these challenges that people are facing. People are working harder than ever and still struggling to pay the rent or pay their mortgage or put food on the table. So both what he has done, which is remarkable, what he is going to do, and I think the contrast also between someone who's good and wise and decent in Joe Biden with someone who has no ethical compass in Donald Trump is going to spell victory at the end of the day.
It was quite an appearance. I wish I could show you all of it. There was a moment just a little bit later when Wolf Blitzer said, "While we've got you here, Congressman Adam Schiff, you came on this network for 4 years during President Trump's presidency, and you lied over and over and over again about evidence that you claimed existed, proving Russian collusion, that proved treason, that proved that Donald Trump and his campaign worked with Vladimir Putin and Russia to rig the 2016 election. You came on this network so many times and you said that lie. Now, finally, once and for all, will you..." Yeah, actually, that never happened. Sorry. Wolf Blitzer didn't have time to challenge Adam Schiff on that one. That's weird, isn't it? It's weird how they keep having Adam Schiff back and they never actually hold him accountable for all the lies about Russian collusion. But let's just go back to one spot here that I think is incredibly informative, because he spends the first half of this segment, talking about all the great things Donald Trump's done, about climate change. About climate change. Because that makes a difference in the everyday lives of the American people.
Larry, you mean all the things Joe Biden has done, not Donald Trump on climate
Oh, did I say Donald Trump? Thank you, Kevin. See, again, I always like, if possible, to prove that we work without a script here. Thank you, Kevin, for pointing that out. Yes, he spent the first half of this little segment talking about all the great things Joe Biden has done about climate change, because that makes such a difference in your life. But then he said this. It's an amazing little pivot here, isn't it?
Harder than ever and still struggling to pay the rent or pay their mortgage or put food on the table. So both what he has done with—
Hold on. If everything is so great and Bidenomics is working, and as Pete Buttigieg just said the other day on CNBC, remember we talked about this earlier in the week, that things are fantastic, we're just having trouble getting our message out. Well, they haven't gotten the message to Adam Schiff and the people he knows he's got to get to vote for him in California. Even in California, he's got to keep it real and say, yeah, people are working harder than ever and they're struggling to pay their rents and put food on the table. Wow, 4 more years of that, please. Maybe the Republicans should just play this on a loop as the Republican response. You know, we were going to have a Republican senator from Alabama, Senator, is it Brett? I'm sorry, Senator, again, without a script. We were going to have her do the Republican response. Instead, we'll just let Adam Schiff give the counter argument to Joe Biden.
Address these challenges that people are facing. People are working harder than ever and still struggling to pay the rent or pay their mortgage or put food on the table.
Bidenomics is working. Yeah, now I don't think Joe Biden's going to mention that. You know what else he's not going to mention? This is, I believe, the 3rd State of the Union address. And hold on, let me do the math real. This is the 2nd State of the Union address that Joe Biden has delivered since his disastrous pullout of Afghanistan. Since his actions and his feckless national security and military advisors created conditions on the ground in Kabul that led to the death of 13 American service members. Needless, unnecessary deaths if we actually had a correct and proper plan to withdraw our troops from Afghanistan. Not one person has been fired from the Pentagon as a result of that horrific black mark on American military history. But frankly, even worse than that, not one parent of those 13 service members have received a phone call from Joe Biden. And here on his 3rd State of the Union address since then, he will not mention any of those service members' names. The parents of one of those members of the military appeared on CNN and revealed this fact to, I believe, a stunned, surprised, and sort of taken aback CNN news anchor. Watch this.
You have been critical of how President Biden has talked about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Tomorrow, he's going to be addressing a lot of global issues, probably in his State of the Union address. What do you want to hear from him about the 2 years ago, what happened to your daughter-in-law?
I want to hear how he's going to strengthen our armed forces and support them and answer our questions and lead to a thorough investigation like they promised so that we can move forward in a positive way and make it better.
President Biden, he's often called the consoler in chief. He does talk to families who have lost loved ones because of his own experiences. Have you experienced that from him as you've been coping with the death of Nicole?
No.
Have you spoken to him?
No, he has not reached out to our family. We've actually reached out to the White House and have never heard back. We asked to meet with them to kind of understand where their thinking was in calling this a success, and we've not received a response. It's been months. No, that's not been our experience at all.
Sorry to hear that. Chairman McCall, my understanding is that
I don't think she saw that coming. I got to be honest. I don't think that was a prepared question. I think that she was asking it because she was hoping to sort of redeem Joe Biden's reputation in front of her CNN audience there. The way she asked the question, you know, President Biden's been referred to as the consoler in chief. Have you experienced that? I honestly think this anchor was hoping to get some sort of some sort of emotional feedback from this mother who has been critical of Joe Biden, and she's trying to throw a lifeline to good old President Biden and say, okay, maybe you're unhappy with the fact that he hasn't done an investigation into the death of your daughter-in-law, and maybe you're unhappy that he hasn't held anybody accountable, but at least he gave you a big hug. And he was the consoler in chief. At least he talked to you and told you that he feels your pain and said, yeah, I lost my son too. My son Bo died in Iraq, even though he didn't die in Iraq. I'm sure that happened, right? Please give us something here. And then she got the truth. They got nothing. They've heard nothing. They've gone out of their way to reach out, and they've received nothing. Because you know why? You know why? Because these people, the parents of those service members who died because of Joe Biden's policies, those people don't serve Joe Biden's political interest. So they're not worth the time. That's why. Yeah, she will not be the guest of Joe Biden tonight up in the gallery watching the State of the Union. She will be the guest of Congressman McCall there. All these things you know about the state of our country, all these things you know about the state of Joe Biden's mental capacity, all these things you know about where we're headed right now, they're going to lie to you tonight, and they're going to try to make you think that you shouldn't believe your lying eyes, that you're the problem, that you're wrong. In fact, if you don't believe that Joe Biden is the greatest president in American history and has achieved incredible successes, that we are right now enjoying the best of times in America, if you don't believe that, frankly, you're the problem. You MAGA fascist. Don't believe me? Well, look at Joe Scarborough on MSNBC trying to sell you something that you're supposed to be buying.
But comparing that guy's mental state, I've said it for years now, he's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years. And, I don't know if people know this or not, Biden used to be a hothead. Sometimes that Irishman would get in front of the reasoning. Sometimes he would say things he didn't want to say. This is, and I don't really, I don't really care. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it. And
there you go. And you heard it. F you if you don't agree. F you if you don't believe it. That's political analysis and commentary at MSNBC, proud as a peacock. This version of Joe Biden is the best version of Joe Biden ever. Let's finish where we started then. If that's the thought, then let's go back and finish right where we started today.
Whatever the hell they want. I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit.
We can all see Joe Biden's weakness. If Biden wins, can he even survive till 2029? The real question is, can we? Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
There you go. That version of Joe Biden. The best Joe Biden ever. And if you don't believe Joe Scarborough when he tells you, F you. Millions of Americans earn and use credit card rewards, right? I bet you do. I do. Corporate megastores want to take those rewards away from you. Rewards we use on groceries and rewards we use on school supplies. The cash back to save on gas and grow our small businesses. Travel miles we use to visit family and loved ones and make memories that'll last a lifetime. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would eliminate credit card rewards. It's outrageous. No more travel miles, no more cash back. When lawmakers help corporate megastores line their pockets, of course, American families have to pay for it. Tell your senator to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. Go to handsoffmyrewards.com. You've got all the tools and resources there so you can take action today. You can learn yourself about what they're trying to do and then take action. You can get in front of this and you can stop this from happening. Just go to handsoffmyrewards.com. All right. Last night, in preparation for Joe Biden's State of the Union, the Democrats, they decided that it was time to put the Capitol under siege. Watch how Jesse Waters reported it.
Right now, as we speak, Washington is erecting a fence around the Capitol in anticipation of Biden's State of the Union tomorrow. Not a fence around the border, a fence around Biden, who thinks he needs protection from you while he doesn't provide protection from them. Now, this fence is a sinister symbol to stigmatize half the country's dangerous to justify his crackdown. Even though we outnumber them, they're powerful and will overwhelm you with shame from now until November. They'll call you names, treat you like ogres, threaten you, threaten your job, your family, your status. This will be an all-out war by Biden's alliance against the American people in the name of saving democracy, which is the most cynical part of this. They'll try to separate you from your senses, your instincts, from your conscience. You know what's right and wrong, but they'll get in between you and your heart, and they'll make you doubt it. This election will not be about policy. That's the last thing they want it to be. It'll be a blood sport, the ugliest campaign in American history. Now, usually it's the politician who gets destroyed, but now they're targeting you. So prepare yourself and stay strong.
Here's a look at the wall that was being put, or the fence, I should say, being put up late afternoon and continued through the night. Listen, the Biden people and Democrats in general, they know how powerful images are. And I assure you that the reason they're doing this, do you remember them doing this last year? I don't. I know they kept up a fence there for Biden's first State of the Union address 1 year after January 6th, but I don't remember the reason they're doing this. It's not because there's actually any intelligence or data that shows that there's a legitimate threat of anything happening. There's no protests planned that I'm aware of, and I live in Washington. I do news and morning radio in Washington. There's nothing planned on the mall tonight, and they don't have any active intelligence that there's going to be a problem. They're doing this because the news reports on the networks and on cable news, as they're doing the pregame, they do like 6 hours, like it's the Super Bowl of tailgating and pre-show for the State of the Union. And they're giving them an image to work with. You see, they're not dumb. They know that image is everything. You give people a picture, and it says more than anything that Biden's going to mumble tonight at the State of the Union. So at various times, there will be an exterior shot of the Capitol, either just on its own for ambiance, or they'll have a reporter standing out there in front of the Capitol, and they will feature this fence. They will feature this barricade. And the message, whether it's spoken or not, is very clear. The president's life is in danger because of Trump voters. You are the enemy. You are a murderer. You are a rioter. You are an insurrectionist. You are looking to destroy the country. That's their political message right now. As he stands inside that building and tries to pretend that he's a great unifier and that he's standing for America and democracy and all those wonderful things in the Constitution, what he's really doing is sending a very clear message. You can't be trusted. It's kind of gross and enraging. And Jesse's right to point out a very important aspect of this. He's protecting himself, but he will not protect you. He will not protect our border. He will not protect neighborhoods around Washington or in Georgia or wherever you live from unvetted violent criminals pouring across our border. Here's the proclamation, January 20th, 2021. This was the day he was inaugurated. Within minutes of Joe Biden becoming president of the United States, when he was sworn into office, he put out a proclamation on the termination of emergency with respect to the southern border. There's no emergency down here. By the way, there probably wasn't, because Donald Trump had brought everything in hand. But he was able to get everything under control at the border by declaring an emergency situation and taking executive actions. Well, Joe Biden terminated those, and specifically, as you can see here, the redirection of funds diverted to border wall construction. In that proclamation, the president said it is a waste of money that diverts attention from genuine threats to our homeland security. So we couldn't have a border wall. We couldn't protect our nation's border because it was a waste of money. How much do you think this costs? It's not a waste of money to protect him when he's at the Capitol, apparently. And who does he have to be protected from? From you. Congressman Tom Tiffany of Wisconsin. By the way, last I checked, Wisconsin, a pretty important state in the upcoming presidential election. Wisconsin, just like Virginia, who, according to MSNBC, should have no fears about border security. Wisconsin, they got to be worried about Minnesota, maybe, but not the southern border, right? That's the MSNBC mocking elitist, snobby message to voters in those states. Well, here's Congressman Tom Tiffany of Wisconsin sending a message back to his voters. Apparently, he thinks that this fence around the Capitol is symbolic of something very important that his voters need to know.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the State of the Union is here tonight. President Biden will be giving his presentation at the United States Capitol, and he'll be protected by this fence just put in today for him. But yet he will not put up a wall on the southern border to protect Americans.
I mean, that's it. That's 100% true. And there's no denying it, and there's no spinning it. And there's the only possible response that Biden or Democrats or Jen Psaki or Jake Tapper will have on this blatant hypocrisy is, well, yeah, you know, the real threat in this country is MAGA Republican insurrectionists from January 6th. Just look what they did. I want you to see this very cool video. It's a fun account on X.com called Historic Vids, and they find videos from the past and put them out there. And this is of a very young Donald Trump in his mid-30s, wearing a fantastic chocolate brown and coffee striped tie circa 1978, I want to say. And he's asked in this interview about whether he has any interest in politics, specifically president.
For some people, the ultimate goal in life has been becoming the president of the United States. Would you like to be the president of the United States?
I really don't believe I would run it, but I would like to see somebody as the president who could do the job. And there are very capable people in this country.
Most people who are capable are not running for office. Most men are frightened of politics today.
It is a shame, isn't it?
Yes.
It is a shame. The most capable people are not necessarily running for political office. And that is a very sad commentary on the country. They had major corporations and they had this and that, but they are not running for political office.
Why wouldn't someone like yourself run for political office? You have all the money that you possibly need. You've accomplished a great deal, even though you are only 34. I know there's a lot of things that you possibly can do in the years ahead. Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life. And I also see it that somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile. And that's a sad commentary for the political process.
Television, in a strange way, has ruined that process, hasn't it?
It's hurt the process very much. I mean, the Abraham Lincolns of the world, Abraham Lincoln would probably not be electable today because of television. He was not a handsome man. And he
all right. A couple of things to comment on here. First of all, and first and foremost, because we show a lot of videos of Joe Biden back in the day, because he's got a 50-year political career, and he was on television back in the day. We show you video of Joe Biden from 3 years ago, and the difference is stark. Joe Biden 3 years ago seems like a different guy based on his ability to finish a sentence and his physical appearance. And, well, sure, the years have changed the physical appearance of Donald Trump, changes all of us over, what is this, 40 years ago? 45 years ago? But do you notice how he's kind of the same guy? His speech cadence is the same guy. His vocabulary is the same. His delivery is the same. His mannerisms are the same. Joe Biden is literally a different person. First of all, his face has been reconstructed, I think. Certainly his hairline has. By the way, so is mine. So it's okay for me to make fun of that. Joe Biden comes across like a caricature, an old man caricature of Joe Biden when it's the real thing. Donald Trump is what he is. It's weird in a way and eerie that you hear this guy at 34 years old and he basically sounds like the 78-year-old man you see at a rally today. It's also rather ironic that he says, they're saying, well, television has ruined it, so a really smart guy couldn't be president, or someone who's really effective because you got to be good looking and you got to, first of all, I think Donald Trump's pretty good looking here. But secondly, Donald Trump possibly became president because of television, because of his use of television, his ability to harness that medium. So it's sort of weird to watch him, lamenting with this journalist that, television has changed the game and really smart and good, effective people will never be able to run and win because of how television does it. It's like he utilized his star power and his celebrity from reality television to actually sort of parlay that into a winning presidential campaign, and continues to utilize the medium better than anybody else. Megyn Kelly saw this video and on X made two observations, and I think that they're worth sharing. Number one, he really does look like Eric Trump. He looks like his son. So it's weird that his, the son that bears his name, Donald Trump Jr., bears some resemblance, but nothing like Eric. If you look here, that is amazing. And she also says there's something riveting about this. She got attacked, as usual, by lefty, crazy, lunatic liberals for saying there's something riveting, but there actually is. And I just want to watch part of it again with you, because how is this not riveting when you know that this man ended up 40 years later becoming president of the United States? And here he is at the age of 34 musing about it, and musing about entering politics and about what's wrong with politics. And also, even more importantly, listen to when he dwells on the fact that if you are a politician, or if you're a leader, or if you're an elected official, and you voice ideas and policies, sometimes in a not very nice way, how you will be attacked. Basically, what he's saying is, listen, if I were going to run for office, I would want to fix things, and it might not be real popular with everybody, but it's got to be done. And suddenly, if you're not the nice guy with the big smile, everybody's going to attack you. I mean, knowing Donald Trump's presidency and the way he was attacked, there is something incredibly, profoundly riveting about this. When I first saw it, I thought it might have been AI generated because it's eerily prophetic. Let's watch it again.
For some people, the ultimate goal in life has been becoming the president of the United States. Would you like to be the president of the United States?
I really don't believe I would run it, but I would like to see somebody as the president who could do the job. And there are very capable people in this country.
Most people who are capable are not running for office. Most men are frightened of politics today.
It is a shame, isn't it?
Yes.
It is a shame. The most capable people are not necessarily running for political office. And that is a very sad commentary on the country. They had major corporations and they had this and that, but they are not running for political office.
Why wouldn't someone like yourself run for political office? You have all the money that you possibly need. You've accomplished a great deal, even though you are only 34. I know there's a lot of things that you possibly can do in the years ahead. Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life. And I also see it that somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile.
It's pretty stunning also when you think of Joe Biden and that big smile that he's got, and let's face it, no great brain. Somebody with great ideas and the approach of getting this done, but maybe unpopular, doesn't stand a chance, he says. Incredibly riveting to watch that. And I'm so glad somebody unearthed that and was able to post it. And also, by the way, there's something about seeing Donald Trump out of his element and seeing him back in the day as a businessman. It reminded us, of course, of this video where, if you remember, Donald Trump took time off from being CEO of his organization and actually did just sort of the regular jobs of the people in his company. Here, take a look.
I'm going to try doing your job. It's not going to be easy.
Don't do it too well. Try that one on and see if that fits.
It's very interesting.
We do everything from walking dogs to running up groceries to whatever the guests may need. We really never have to say no to a guest. I think we have a guest that's going to be coming down shortly, checking out.
Am I allowed to accept tips?
You are.
Let's go get a guest. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Did you enjoy your stay?
I did. Thank you so much.
Very good. Well, I'll help you with those bags. Look at this, right? You didn't expect this, right?
I did not expect this.
Would you like the purse inside?
Would you like this inside with you?
Thank you.
I tried to, There you go, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is the first time I've carried luggage for anybody, including myself, in a long time. It's been a long time, but it was fun. The life of a bellman and working in a hotel is never easy. Good job. Good job.
I believe that somebody just called down for a dog walking appointment. I always keep a dog biscuit on hand just in case the dog is either nice or not so nice.
Very good.
Please,
I hope it's not a vicious dog. Hello, how are you?
Oh my goodness.
I'm here to walk your dog.
Gosh.
We have a doggy park at the hotel.
Yes.
And I'm going to take you for a little walk.
Thank you.
Have a good time. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
I think it's the gloves that got me. There's something about the gloves. As the bellman there of the Trump, I think that was the Trump Plaza in New York. There it is. It's always fascinating, I think, to remember that this guy had a very different life before he decided to run for politics. He always says it at the rallies. I didn't need this life. I had a pretty good life. And it's amazing what they've been able to do to him. How they've been able to destroy him. Donald Trump used to be a Democrat. Donald Trump used to be a Democrat. And for a long time, he supported Democrats. He voted Democrat. He, donated to Democrats. And I think it's fair to say that if Donald Trump had actually decided to enter politics and run as a Democrat, the Donald Trump that you see portrayed right now in the mainstream media and on the news and in popular culture, I think would be a very different looking Donald Trump than the Donald Trump who ended up running as a Republican and daring to criticize people like, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Last night in Prince William County, which is a suburb just south of Washington, D.C., there was a school board meeting, and they were addressing that school district's DEI, equity, inclusion, diversity policies, and how it's permeated into the classroom. One of the moms stood up at the open mic, and what she said is important, but also what happened and what the school board members did is frankly even more telling. Watch this.
Marianne Jensen. My name is Marianne Jensen, and I'm here to talk about an ideology that is based on the unscientific opinions of a select few partisan elites. It's a dysfunctional adaptation of a politically charged concept which has taken our schools backwards and not forward. This board's misguided focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those three words are quite noble. True diversity can strengthen knowledge and understanding. True equity, Ms. Williams, will you please sit down? You're showing example of inclusion. True equity is defined as fairness with impartiality.
All right. So we're going to pause there for a quick second so I can tell you what's going on. One of the members, one of the board members, one of the elected officials, one of the people who works for Ms. Jensen here got up to leave in a huff because she didn't want to hear it. This is the time at the school board meetings when they have one job, which is to hear feedback from the taxpayers, from the voters, from the mothers and fathers of the children in the school system. And this school board member just stood up 10 seconds into it to walk out. And I love the fact that she called her on it. She's like, oh, is this your idea of inclusion? Is this your idea of diversity, that you refuse to listen to an opinion that you might not agree with? So that right there is a beautiful move. And then there's more. Watch.
And inclusion, well, who doesn't want to be included in life's pursuits? Unfortunately, those words have lost their true meanings through this board's progressive agenda. Example, Miss Williams walking out during my speech. The term diversity is misused to deceive children into following a system that fosters division based on demographics and beliefs. The term inclusion is warped to justify the exclusion of anyone or idea that dares to disagree. Interesting. And this doublespeak has taken the impartiality out of equity, instead using fairness as a weapon to attain unrealistic outcomes. Maybe there's a place for social science experiments, but it's not in public schools. How can you focus on a women who advocate diversity and inclusion theme this month when many educators refuse to define a woman? How can you celebrate inclusion where children are forced to use ridiculous pronouns based on sociological and psychological trends? This logical mess is a result of your misinterpretation of what it means to be diverse, fair, and inclusive. You have spent $1.5 million on an equity office that has not improved academics outcomes by a single measure and has instead embraced a militant obsession with wedging itself between parents and their children. What metrics show a resulting academic improvement? There is none. It's based on this. Its mission is based on a fallacy. Your job does not include running politically motivated social experiments. Use the DEI money to actually improve grades so that once again, Virginia public schools can be the envy of the nation.
Cheryl Thompson.
It's beautiful. It's a great message. She articulated it perfectly. Her name's Mary Ann Jensen. Now, it might sound familiar because she got a lot of national coverage. She came on my radio show 2 years ago in Washington, D.C., because she did another speech at this very same body at this school board. And she talked about how she had met with the superintendent of schools at an event and complained about the policy that children had to do half of their time at home because of the pandemic, and that if they were in school, they had to wear masks. And she said, there's no science behind this. Why do we keep doing it? And the superintendent of schools in Prince William County, Virginia, said, oh, I know it's terrible. I'd love to get rid of it, but we have a proclamation from the governor, Governor Northam at the time, the Democrat governor, and we can't fight it. He's made us do this. Well, then Glenn Youngkin won the election and became the new governor, and he removed that provision. And he actually said, no more masks, no more school at home. Let's bring all the kids back into school. And that very same superintendent of schools sued Governor Youngkin so that they didn't have to do it, so that they could continue with remote learning, that they could continue forcing the rags on kids' faces when they came to school. And Mary Ann Jensen went to that school board meeting and said, you told me you had your hands tied. You'd love to get rid of this because of the last governor, and now you're suing this governor for doing what you told me. It's great when you call out your elected officials, when you call out the people who work for you and demand even the slightest modicum of truth and respect that you deserve. Well, it's fantastic. It's what this country is all about, especially at the school board level. Because honestly, at the end of the day, what happens in your house is more important than what happens in the White House. These tyrants on these school boards, they affect your children on a minute-by-minute basis more than whoever's sitting behind the resolute desk at the Oval Office. And this is where your voice can be heard, by getting mobilized and energized and activated at the local level. Just a few hundred votes sometimes can make the difference in a school board. Why is this important? Well, because this woke curriculum that has nothing to do with facts and science and math and reading comprehension and literacy. You know, the reason you actually put your kids in school. Well, it permeates the curriculum from beginning to end. It even goes well beyond just what they're putting in your schools. Take a look at this example. This is a brand new children's show on Netflix. And this is a perfect example of what they're teaching your kids in your school as well, where they're trying to terrify your kids about the planet and how it's sick and it's going to explode or burn up. Follow the science in this clip.
I also love fashion, but the industry makes tons of waste. Emissions. Pollution that humans make. From stuff like cars and factories, or trucks that carry food super long ways. We don't like emissions. But the sun doesn't send any emissions into the air. That's all clean energy.
We're going to make some comments as this goes on. That's all clean energy. See that little happy battery? It almost looks like an emoji smiling at you. Yeah. What's inside that battery? Do we know how clean is that battery? Does that battery that's storing the energy there, is it full of chemicals by any chance? I'm just curious. You know, is it full of those things that the airline wants to make sure you don't have in your bag when you check in? Is it full of all of those chemicals that when they end up in a landfill years from now is going to seep into the ground and poison us and our water? I'm just saying. Let's just be completely honest when we talk about how clean this energy is. But that's just the beginning. Watch.
All the time.
You remember them all coughing because the bus went by? By the way, most states in this nation now have basic emission standards so that you don't have big giant plumes of black smoke. Sure, back in the 70s when Democrats were in charge, we had that. But now, not really, right? Understand something. These days, we have relatively clean air because the people through their legislators decided, yeah, let's put some standards on the cars and factories and things like that. We don't want the soot in the air. But yeah, things used to be bad going back to the 19th century and into the mid 20th century. So basic standards have been put in place, and we don't really have big, ugly, gross, polluted skies the way we used to, right? So when they say emissions, they mean carbon dioxide, okay? They mean so-called greenhouse gases that make the planet too hot and give us global warming. Oh, I'm sorry, climate change. Can't say global warming anymore because I'm meant to believe that extreme cold weather is also a result of global warming and increasing temperatures. So when they say emissions, understand something. They mean carbon dioxide, which is literally invisible. Now watch how they convey that to your children in this cartoon. Remember, invisible carbon dioxide emissions.
There's just not as many bugs and animals in the park anymore because of climate change. And now the whole Earth's climate is changing because of things humans do.
Look at that. Look at that image. Invisible carbon dioxide now looks like dark, black, ugly soot. And my favorite thing about this image, you see that big chimney in the middle there, right next to the bridge. But apparently that's the Golden Gate Bridge. So we've got factories in the middle of San Francisco. See the big one here? I'll circle it with my mouse if you can see it right here. Yeah, that clearly is a chimney or a silo from a nuclear power plant. Now, you might have a nuclear power plant near your home, or you may have seen them on television. And sometimes, yes, you do see a plume of what looks like, smoke being emitted. Do you know what it is? It's steam. It's steam from the water that is used in the reactor. It's steam. It's literally H2O. It's not even carbon dioxide. There are no carbon emissions, let alone black, dark, ugly, dirty, sooty emissions from nuclear power plants. If you truly do believe that we have a problem with carbon dioxide in the air and it's causing global warming or climate change or whatever you want to call it, if you truly believe that that is an existential threat to the planet, you would actually be the biggest advocate of nuclear power. But look at the image here. They've actually created what looks like a nuclear power plant. They do it again later. Watch.
Like making tons of emissions. Yeah, it's making the whole Earth hotter than usual. But
Yeah, making the whole Earth hotter than usual. If your kid comes back with any of this crap from school, could you play your guy? Oh, the Earth has gotten too hot. Just ask your kid, say, go back tomorrow to the teacher that told you that and ask the teacher, what temperature is the planet supposed to be? Right? You cannot tell me that the Earth's temperature is too hot unless you have a baseline of what the optimal temperature for the planet is. So there you go. That's the question. I'd love to hear the answer. Find out from little Jimmy when he comes back from school tomorrow.
when we burn stuff like coal and
Oh.
gas.
Sorry. There it is again. Listen to it. I'm sorry. Watch.
But when we burn stuff like coal and gas.
Coal and gas. When we burn stuff like coal and gas, but the image again is a nuclear power plant. That's not what a coal plant looks like. That's not what a gas plant looks like. There is no gas plant. That's nuclear. Clean energy.
And gas called fossil fuels, we send way too many emissions into the atmosphere. That makes the blanket really thick, and that's changing weather all over the world. It's making glaciers melt.
Oh, this is a lie. The whole polar bear thing is a lie. It's already been debunked. I thought we were supposed to follow the science and follow the facts. Look at how they prey on your kids' emotions, by the way. This is a children's show. It's a children. Where's Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner, for God's sake? Buy your kids an old Warner Brothers Daffy Duck Bugs Bunny DVD or stream it if it's still available, and they'll be way more entertained and funnier kids too as they grow up.
The sea levels are getting a lot higher and even causing really scary storms in some places, right? Yep, and it's making droughts worse in other places. That's when it doesn't rain enough, so rivers and lakes dry up. So what's gonna happen to all the lizards and Earth and us? This is the park?
There you go. There you go. They are literally telling your children that because of a power plant or because of cars, the park is going to turn into a scene from Mad Max. They are literally showing, they are evoking Mad Max post-apocalypse. I think it's child abuse if you let your kids watch this. And it's perfectly indicative of what those school board members are looking to do and inject into your school curriculum. These people have to be defeated. They have to be. So does the governor of New York, by the way. The governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, announced today that crime has gotten so bad in the Empire State that she is calling out the National Guard. It's that big of an emergency. Here she is.
Point one. I'm redeploying nearly 1,000 members of the New York State Police, MTA Police, and MTA National Guard to conduct bag checks in the city's busiest transits. They'll start seeing them at the tables, making sure that weapons are not being brought in, working in concert with our New York State Police, as well as our NYPD. Because no one heading to their job or to visit family or to go to a doctor appointment should worry that the person sitting next to them possesses a deadly weapon. Point one.
So, why she really evokes confidence too, doesn't she? If you live in New York right now, I'm sure you feel a lot safer and a lot more sound knowing that she's got her steady hands at the wheel. She was literally unable to read. What is with Democrats? Joe Biden can't read either. Is there a literacy problem with our Democrat elected officials? And sure enough, it's already been implemented. Here is the scene in New York City subways this morning as people were heading to work. You've got police directing subway riders over. There's the National Guard with weapons of war, I'm told, by the left. There's the National Guard standing by as bags are being searched for weapons. By the way, if you're carrying a weapon onto the subway in your bag and you plan on mugging people or harming people and you head down the escalator, I did real fast. I'm going to finish my thought, but What a nice guy that he brought his wife's purse over there. I was going to say, why is this guy carrying a purse? Did you see that? See, chivalry is not dead. That I don't know why. That's very wholesome. I thought, oh, here's a guy with a purse. But no, he carried his wife's purse for her. We need more of that. This is that guy for mayor. If you're carrying a bag down to the subway and you plan on using a knife or a gun to assault someone or mug them on the train, and you come down the escalator and you see they're checking bags, what do you do? I'm thinking you like immediately just turn around and go right up the escalator. That's the guy the cops should be handling, right? That's the guy you get. Now, I don't know if they're still doing it. Something tells me that this is all for show, that they're doing this because the cameras are there to make people think that something's happening. I cannot believe, knowing New York, I've lived there. Have you ever lived in New York? Do you know how many subway stations there are throughout all 5 boroughs? Well, 4 boroughs. There's no subway stations going to Staten Island. I've got to believe that this is, they can't be doing this at every subway stop. They can't be. I mean, they are deploying 1,000 National Guard, but this right here looks made for television. Grand Central, of course. They're doing it where there's a lot of people, and it's right across the street from a bunch of television stations and networks. And they're trying to convey the message that they've got things under control. But see, here's what I don't understand. Tonight, Joe Biden isn't going to say anything about violent crime on our streets. In fact, in New York City, the DA there, his name is Alvin Bragg, and he's Joe Biden's buddy. Alvin Bragg is spending millions of dollars of city resources to prosecute Donald Trump for God knows what. I've forgotten at this point. Entering into a non-disclosure agreement with somebody. So if things are that great in New York that you can spend millions of dollars to prosecute Donald Trump, or in the state of New York where Letitia James just prosecuted Donald Trump in a civil case, clearly, since that's the priority, they've got no problem with crime. And Joe Biden tonight he's not going to say anything about violent crime in the streets because there's no issue, there's no problem. So if that's the case, why does Governor Hochul have to call out 1,000 National Guardsmen to help bring law and order to the streets of that fair city? By the way, real quickly here, editorial in, I believe, the New York Times. Mara Gay, she's the one who the other day said that the Supreme Court was standing with the Confederacy for allowing Donald Trump to be on the ballot in Colorado. You remember her, right? Mara Gay. But even she, as an editorial board member, wrote a column in the New York Times applauding Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul for calling in the National Guard. The National Guard might help subway riders feel safer. And by the way, that's actually incredibly accurate because this has nothing to do with actually doing anything. It's to make people feel good. That's why they're doing it. New York City can't function without a thriving subway, and ensuring that the system not only is safe, but feels safe is paramount. See, it's got to feel safe. Well, gee, Mara, why does it not feel safe? Maybe it doesn't feel safe because it isn't safe. Because we've seen over and over and over again people getting beat up and pushed onto the tracks and knifed, and aggressive panhandlers going through the subway demanding money from people. It used to be like that when I lived in New York until one thing happened. They elected Rudy Giuliani, and he said no more. Screw it. He didn't have to call in the National Guard. He just let the police do their job. But there's something really interesting about seeing the New York Times have a headline that says the National Guard might help subway riders feel safer. Because 2 years ago, when there was rampant crime in New York, someone else suggested that the National Guard might help fix the problem. Tom Cotton wrote an opinion piece, as you can see. Send in the troops, the nation must restore order, the military stands ready. He suggested bringing in the National Guard to make America's city streets safer, including New York. Mara Gay, the same Mara Gay, commented on that and said, running this in the New York Times puts Black people in danger and other Americans standing up for our humanity and democracy, and then tagged her employer, the New York Times, on her tweet. Does this sound familiar to you? It was a really big controversy in June of 2020 after a month of Black Lives Matter riots and protests and arson and looting and death. When Tom Cotton said, enough, Chicago and New York and Philadelphia and DC and LA and San Francisco, they have proven that their law enforcement cannot maintain law and order because the elected officials cannot maintain law and order and won't let the cops maintain law and order. So let's bring in the National Guard. And for running that column, there was an outright revolt at the New York Times. The writers, the opinion writers, the journalists, they all felt triggered by the fact that in their newspaper, they allowed Republican Tom Cotton to print this odious, horrible, racist mess. Tom Cotton, send in the troops. So there's Mara Gay, June of 2020, saying that running that from Tom Cotton puts people in danger, Black people in particular. And then here she is today. Same Mara Gay. The National Guard might help subway riders feel safer, applauding Democrat Kathy Hochul's decision. Well, that just doesn't seem right, does it? The irony was not lost, by the way, on the aforementioned Senator Tom Cotton. He actually tweeted out the story about how the National Guard has been called in nearly 3 years after, well, 3.5 years after he suggested it in the New York Times. He tweeted out the New York Times article saying that the National Guard and state police are going to patrol New York City subways. And he merely said, sending in the troops to help restore law and order. That's a power move right there. Because let's remember, Tom Cotton's headline was, send in the troops, the nation must restore law and order. By the way, at the New York Times, when this whole uproar happened, people lost their jobs. The executive editor had to resign because he had lost his staff, the writers, the reporters. They refused to work with him. The lunatics run the asylum at the New York Times. They were so angry that a sitting senator was allowed to express his opinion, an opinion, by the way, that they are now joining and publishing 3.5 years later. They were so outraged he was able to express his opinion in the New York Times that they demanded the executive editor or the managing editor be fired or step down and resign in disgrace. And they won. He did. He was drummed out of his job because they don't believe in freedom of the press. They don't believe in free speech. They're authoritarians. They only believe that one opinion is allowed. And by the way, they may even share that opinion 3 years later, but if they have the opinion, then it's okay. But if you have the opinion, or someone like you, or someone you elected has that opinion, well, no, that harms Black people. By the way, while we're at it, and while we're issuing apologies now, or we should be issuing apologies to Tom Cotton and anyone who stood by him for believing that maybe the National Guard should be brought in to make people feel safer in New York City subways, how about this guy? How about Daniel Penny? Daniel Penny, a Marine veteran who, as a good Samaritan while sitting on the subway, helped subdue a lunatic, a violent, crazed lunatic. And in subduing him, that lunatic who was threatening harm to innocent individuals on that train, that lunatic happened to die. And now Daniel Penny is facing manslaughter charges because he stepped up and did what no one else on the train would do, which is protect innocent lives, because he's a Marine. He's under arrest. He's facing manslaughter charges. And now Kathy Hochul, the governor, has brought out the National Guard in full military fatigues and carrying their rifles to keep law and order on the subways. Daniel Penny didn't have a weapon. Daniel Penny wasn't dressed in military garb. Daniel Penny was minding his own business, wanting to go to work. And then a lunatic came in, started threatening his fellow passengers, and he helped protect them. If we're issuing apologies, and we certainly should, let's save one. As Shane Murphy says here on X, let's save one of our apologies for Daniel Penny, and let's pray to God he gets acquitted. Even better, let's pray to God that the charges are dropped against him. All right, that's it for today. If you're watching the State of the Union, make sure you check in regularly at Town Hall or across all the Town Hall sites, Red State, PJ Media, Hot Air, Twitchy. Did I get them all? Red State.
Bearing Arms.
Bearing Arms. Oh, I'm sorry, Cam Edwards. And thank you, Kevin. Been a bit of a mess this morning. Today, this afternoon. Make sure you check out all the sites. There's going to be lots of commentary, lots of articles, lots of videos of what you see. In fact, don't even watch it on cable or whatever. Just, check in across all the sites and our social media platforms. If you liked this show today, please subscribe and become a part of our permanent audience so that you see it every single day. We're live every day at noon Eastern on Rumble. And then, of course, you can catch the entire show on whatever your favorite video servicing platform is. Yes, even that one owned by Google. And all the extra segments are distributed out as well. And we'd love for you to share those too. And follow us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, because the audio-only version is pretty good. I listened to it the other day, and it works. It's a good audio podcast, so tell your friends about that as well. Thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.